The second Sunday of Advent might speak to my heart more than any of the others. And it's probably because one of my favorite Advent hymns really captures the essence of this Sunday's readings. On Jordan's bank, the Baptist cry announces that the Lord is nigh. Awake and hearken, for he brings glad tidings of the King of Kings. That hymn, as I said, speaks so deeply to these readings, and John the Baptist announcing the presence of the Messiah. But to really understand these readings, we have to have some understanding of the Old Testament expectation of what God was going to do in the life of the people. Even from the time of Moses, there was a certain expectation that there was going to be someone who would come and be a greater prophet than he, who would lead the people of Israel in the ways of the Lord. And as time went on, the people found themselves in great need yet again to be saved by the Lord from a terrible situation. No, it wasn't slavery to the Egyptians in Egypt, and God saving them through the waters of the Red Sea and ultimately carrying them to the Promised Land. But as the people were unfaithful to their relationship with God, they had been carried off into exile into many different foreign nations surrounding Israel. So the expectation of the people had become, and we especially hear it through the prophet Isaiah, that God would lead his people through a new exodus. Again, not just from Egypt and into the Promised Land, but from whatever nation the people had been scattered. God would draw them out of that misery. He would bring them back to Jerusalem, and he would restore their relationship with God. So there would be a new exodus, there would be a new leader, and ultimately Jesus is that new Moses. But John is out in the desert, in the wilderness, and he's announcing the beginning of this new exodus. And as Jesus comes along, he begins this ministry. He begins this gathering of the peoples, this restoration of their life with God. His bringing them back from their exile, and through repentance, bringing them back to where they so belonged, where they desired to be. But even in that, the Exodus comes through repentance. And, as we get into the New Testament, there's so many places the sacraments of initiation really speak to this reality of being drawn out of slavery to sin through the waters of baptism and ultimately into the promised land of heaven, being restored to relationship with God, being drawn back from all of the places where we have been scattered in our lives due to sin. But it all begins with Jesus, and it is done through the power of Jesus. And so as we're in this season of Advent and we're looking forward to our celebration of Christmas, we're celebrating the announcement of John the Baptist, the beginning of this new Exodus that begins as Jesus comes into the world. And he is the one who will lead his people back from their slaveries to sin. He's the one who will restore their relationship with God. He is the one who will renew all things in himself, restore all things in himself. And so we look forward to that celebration, but we also look forward to the fulfillment of that prophecy. Yes, Jesus has come, and he, in one sense in our lives, we have already experienced that new Exodus, and yet it's not fully complete until he returns again, and we finally attain our place in the promised land. The second reading too is such a gift for us this week. St. Peter speaks to, that reality that as we wait to see the Lord's presence and actions in our lives, we sometimes grow weary of waiting, and we think, geez Louise, God, how long? How long are we going to have to wait until we see what you're going to do? And Peter reminds us that to God 1,000 years are like a day, and one day is like 1,000 years. He sees it all in perspective. There is no delay, as in an earthly sense we would think there is a delay. It's not like God got hung up along the way and he can't make it here in time. No. He's fully in control. and he knows exactly what he's doing, and he sees the whole span of the life of the world all at once. Why would God take so long to put it all back together? St. Peter says it's so that all might come to repentance. It's so that all might experience the new Exodus, and God drawing them back from the places in their hearts and in their lives that they'd been scattered due to sin, that they ultimately might have every chance possible to attain the promised land. So on Jordan's bank, the Baptist cry announces that the Lord is nigh. Awake and hearken, for he brings glad tidings of the King of Kings. Then cleansed be every soul from sin, make straight the way of God within. And let us all our hearts prepare for Christ to come and enter there.